Alexa.
I'm Vinny.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Carly.
And during today's episode, we'll be discussing American Buffalo.
But before we get to discussing the actual play, let's talk about David Mamet, the playwright. Mamet was born on November 30th, 1947 in Chicago to Jewish parents. He is famous for his plays, essays, and movies, which he writes and edits. He's especially noted for Glengarry Glen Ross, which was nominated for 2 Tony Awards and won the Pulitzer Prize in 1984. He first gained serious credibility from his works including The Duck Variations in 1971, Sexual Perversity in Chicago in 1974, and American Buffalo in 1975. He's really well noted for his language that he uses in his plays, which critics refer to as Mamet speak. It has a very edgy, raw quality that is very hard to copy. He uses it to emphasize certain words and phrases for characters and showcases their deceit and manipulation of each other.
So now, let's get to the meat of the sandwich, the story of American Buffalo. A coin collector stumbles across a rare buffalo nickel in Donnie's small Chicago junk shop and purchases it for only $90. Later coming to believe that the coin is actually very valuable and feeling he has been unfairly taken advantage of, Donnie becomes determined to steal the coin back. He lists himself from Bobby, a young friend, and Teach, a paranoid and violent con man whose nihilistic view of the world leads to the downfall of the three. The 3 conspirators think of themselves as honest businessmen, simply pursuing the American ideal of free enterprise. In reality, however, they are merely small-time crooks, and all of their plotting amounts to nothing. It is a futile exercise that only amounts to planning and finally erupts in violence when their failure becomes apparent and the frustration becomes unbearable.
After deciding Bobby should carry out the actual robbery, Don and Teach conspire to cut him out of the deal and split the money between themselves. Bobby returns with a buffalo nickel, one that he finally admits he simply purchased, being unable to carry out the robbery. Don is embarrassed and angry, but Teach is furious, and suspecting Bobby is somehow trying to con them, explodes in a vicious attack on the helpless boy, which lands him in the hospital. The inadequate thieves have been exposed not only for their lust for greed, but for their complete ineptitude to carry out a simple robbery.
So what would you guys say the type of plot is?
I think it's climactic.
It's pretty clear that it's not episodic and it's not cyclical. The climax would be where Teach hits Bobby after he tells them about the nickel.
But what about the ending? I thought it was kind of ambiguous. You never truly know whether or not things come to a good ending. Teach goes out in the rain, gets in a car, that's it. It ends there. What happens next? Does Teach grab Bobby and bring him to the hospital? Will he drive away? Or will something else entirely happen? I mean, it's really up to the audience to decide there.
As in most modern examples of drama, the setting of American Buffalo is crucial. Mamet's 3 crooks await and plan in Donnie's resale shop, a messy junk shop on the south side of town that becomes a metaphor for the lives of those characters that inhabit it. Its entrapment-like ambiance shows their narrow, trapped lives. The various objects that are piled and jammed aimlessly together are all bits and pieces of the American culture turned to worthless scrap. These things have little present value, but retain the dangerous capacity to stimulate the thoughts, false expectations, and absurd dreams of these 3 sad men who sit amidst the clutter.
It's not stretching the metaphor too far to see the characters themselves are like these junk objects, as individuals outside society whose only connection to it lies in those distorted expectations and fantasies it induces. They can potentially provoke violence and destruction, and that's why this is the simple dynamic that animates American Buffalo.
American Buffalo is a play that heavily relies on the development of the 3 main characters and their foils due to the fact that little action takes place in the play outside of the dialogue. First, we'll start with Donnie. Donnie Dubrow is the owner and proprietor of Donnie's Resale Shop, the antique shop where all of the dialogue in the play takes place. Donnie is the most dynamic and cyclical character throughout the play due to his different personalities. In the beginning of the play, we see Donnie act as a father figure to Bobby, teaching him about the world and giving him helpful advice like, eat breakfast, it's the most important meal of the day.
Donnie explains to Bobby that business and friendship are separate and tries to ironically reiterate the idea that in this life you have nothing. In reality, though, Donnie does truly believe in friendship and loyalty through his relationship with Bobby. However, Donnie also lives a double life. He is both a thief in his store as well as outside of his store. He attempts to steal valuable items from people and then attempts to flip them in his shop. Donnie shows a different side of himself when conversing with Teach, who convinces him to abandon the one person who has been loyal to him, Bobby, where he seems like more of a crook than the amiable Donnie we were shown in the beginning of the play.
As the play progresses, we see that Donnie and Teach grow increasingly more irritable with each other, and Donnie's ideology begins to revert. When Teach questions Bobby's loyalty to Donnie and hits him, Donnie has an epiphany. He realizes this whole time that Bobby has been loyal to him, and that through his dealings with Teach, Donnie abandoned his views on friendship, and that is why he tells Bobby he messed up.
Now let's move on to Teach. Teach is a 40-something-year-old friend of Don's who always seems to be at the resale shop. He manifests himself as the somewhat flat antagonist in this play. Throughout the play, he believes the world as well as Ruthie are out to get him. Teach constantly preaches the idea that friendship means nothing and that everything is business. He attempts throughout the story to sway Donnie to accept his ideals, and Teach also tries to put action to his name and show everyone how knowledgeable he is.
It becomes apparent to the reader, though, that Teach has no idea what he is doing, and the facade of an experienced thief that he puts on is all a hoax. Teach's inability to adapt to the ideals of friendship like Donnie does, and his paranoia that the world is out to get him, is what ultimately causes his freakout and the destruction of Donnie's shop as he tries to give his final lesson. The one bright spot in Teach's character is that in the end he seems to resign to the current life he is in and help Donnie and Bobby get to the hospital. This is Teach's last look at the world.
Teach is a man that subscribes to nihilism, or a belief that society put him in his place and the values of society prevent him from getting out of the state of the squalor he is in. We can assume from this belief and Teach's actions that he has truly resigned himself from the world at large and realizes he, Don, and Bob will never escape their plight.
The last main character is Bobby, the young black teen in the play who acts as Donnie's gopher. He runs all the errands Donnie asks him to with the utmost loyalty and comes to Donnie with most of his problems. It is implied that Bobby does not have a strong parental figure in his life, as the bond he shares with Donnie is a father-son-like relationship.
Throughout the play, Bobby acts mysteriously, always asking Donnie for money and disappearing. He always seems to be in cahoots with Ruthie and Gracie, and while at first it might seem that way, and we never really know exactly where the money is going, it can be inferred that he bought the nickel back, which instigates the fight with Teach. Bobby is the prime example in the play of loyalty.
Despite suspicions by Donnie and Teach, the only lie Bobby ever told was about seeing the man with the suitcase in order to make Donnie proud. After he gets hit by Teach, Donnie has his revelation that the whole time Bobby was always there for him and never wavered in his loyalty.
Fletcher, Ruthie, and Gracie are the ambiguous characters of the play. They never make an appearance, however they have a major effect in the play. To Donnie, Fletcher is the do-all man whom should be admired for his various talents. Donnie wants Fletcher in on everything he does just in case, because it seems Don truly trusts the man. Bobby seems to be very good friends with Ruthie and Gracie, because he is the only character in the play that truly interacts with the individuals. Teach, in complete contrast, hates the trio. He believes that they are a bunch of dirty cheaters and should have no parts in the dealings between him and Don. Teach explains how they cheat at cards and tries to open up Don's eyes.
This trio seems to foil the trio of Don, Teach, and Bobby. Fletch and Ruthie are extremely successful in cards as well as their personal lives, unlike Don and Teach, who are surrounded and trapped by junk in their lives. Also, Fletch seems to be a master thief, something Teach aspires to be but cannot.
So while we're on the topic of the trios of friends, I think it's important to bring up the overwhelming theme of business versus friendship, and in all honesty, I wouldn't want to be friends with Teach. Donnie and Teach's relationship is very confusing and complex. In parts of the play, Teach comes into the shop bashing Donnie and his store of misfit items, but when it comes to drama and gossip, Teach automatically becomes a concerning and all-giving friend. He's determined to help and do what he can, and so it questions if business is the only thing that the men have in common.
The business for Donnie is what keeps him stable and going. He lives in his shop and relies heavily on the merchandise in the store. Although when Teach destroys the place at the end of the film, Donnie seems to care less about his business and brushes off the facts that he now has to fix Teach's rage fit. So, would a good friend really do that to somebody? Both the men have an interest in the businesses of committing the act of theft to get the coin back. It is clear in the scenes that the two men have their disputes and fight about the business and the best interest for themselves rather than collectively as a whole.
Teach tries to dismiss Bobby from the plan so that he can get in on the money, turning Donnie against his only true friend for the sake of earning the big bucks of the coin for the sake of the business. Teach even states, "A guy can be too loyal, Don. Don't be dense on this. What are we saying? Business." It is clear here that Teach's only intentions are the money. Another theme could be trust and loyalty. The characters struggle to remain loyal and invest their trust in the individuals around them is apparent throughout the plot. These ideals go hand in hand, for in order to be loyal, you must trust that an individual will return said loyalty.
Bobby's loyalty to Don is displayed by his desire to learn from Don how to run a business and how to work carefully in the dirty dealing jobs they do. Bob listens to Don's advice on how to survive in this dog-eat-dog world they live in. He also runs errands for Don, such as getting his coffee, being his lookout, and relaying information between the individuals at the shop and the others at the diner.
Don's loyalty to Bob is shown through his concern for him. He wants to ensure Bobby is taking care of himself and advises him to never skip breakfast, as well as wanting him to take vitamins. Don has sympathy for the poverty Bobby lives in and gives him money when he asks for it.
The loyalty Teach demonstrates is questionable. His actions and words are contradictory, and his motivations are unclear. When he chooses to be loyal, is it because he truly thinks of Don as a friend, or is it strictly related to business? After all, Teach believes that he can't trust anyone and that friendship isn't real.
After a second look at the play, you can easily recognize several symbols, such as gambling. Not only do the characters gamble with cards, they gamble in their lives as well because they are crooks. Gambling can act as a type of bonding experience, but here we see that gambling splits Donnie and Teach apart, culminating in the climax of the play.
The nickel is a symbol of desire in the play. The characters desire to steal back a nickel for a variety of reasons. Teach wants to prove himself to the world and escape his plight. Bobby desires to steal the nickel to make Don proud, and Don desires the nickel so he too can stop being cheated by the world.
Rain generally exists in literature to baptize characters, not in a biblical sense, but in a sense that the character will be renewed or redeemed. Teach is the only one who goes out into the rain at the end of the story, so this symbol can be interpreted as a renewal for Teach, but it also can be seen as an ironic symbol because we're not sure whether or not Teach will be renewed.
There's actually quite a bit of irony displayed throughout the text. Teach's name proves to be ironic, considering educators are thought of to be intelligent, well-organized, punctual, and have a likeness for children, all traits of which Teach lacks. Teach preaches knowing what the you're doing, however, it is obvious in the planning of the robbery as well as the dialogue with the coin pamphlet that he has absolutely no concept of value or proper planning, skills that a good thief has. He speaks with confidence, but has no actual idea what he's doing. It is also ironic that this character dominates the dialogue and has the most dominant personality of all the characters, however he has the least control of his actions and emotions.
Don ironically tells Bobby that you have no friends in this life, but displays a relatively strong friendship towards him. He also preaches learning by experience, however, he doesn't want Bob to help in the robbery. Don is the owner of a junk shop, and although he's equal to Teach and Bob socially and financially, he serves as the authority of their posse.
Bob is the most quiet and secretive character, which makes it ironic that he is the only one to remain loyal to all the other characters. A motif is a recurring theme in literature that spans many generations. The first motif that exists in American Buffalo is the entrapment motif. The entrapment motif strengthens the play's standing as a comment on society. The shop and its surroundings constantly trap the characters in their lives of junk, such as robbing people of their possessions. However, the entrapment motif also goes hand in hand with the nihilistic aspect of the play. The characters are trapped in their social standing in society, and because of this entrapment are unable to escape their dishonest lives.
Another important motif that I noticed was the father-son relationship motif. It's obvious that Donnie and Bobby share more than a friendship, as Donnie takes on the paternal role for Bobby, who seems to not have any strong parental figures in his life. The motif helps to develop Donnie and Bobby's characters and their personalities and their ideals for the story of American Buffalo.
This motif is also present in Arthur Miller's play, Death of a Salesman. Although Death of a Salesman and American Buffalo take place in different settings and are written on very different topics, they share a common theme. In Death of a Salesman, Biff is loyal to his father until he realizes Willie has been cheating on his mother and determines that he can no longer trust or respect him. In the case of American Buffalo, it is the father figure that loses faith in the son, when Bobby tells Don he missed the guy with the suitcase. However, unlike Biff and Willie, their relationship is mended in the end. This struggle between betrayal and loyalty is present in many literary works.
Thank you for tuning in to today's Culture Cast. We hope you enjoyed learning a bit about David Mamet and his literary work, American Buffalo.